So once you have a facial landmark detection model running in real time on your face, what you can then do is create these interesting animated facial filters. And this is what we're going to learn in this tutorial. Hi, so in this tutorial, we'll be creating these amazing 2D Snapchat filters. And not just that, we'll start by a bit of theory, and then we'll also understand how facial detection work really fast in MediaPipe and how to use it. And then we'll also understand how to use a 468 landmark 3D detector in MediaPipe that will detect all the 468 points on your face. And then after that, we'll do facial expression detection, which will detect if your mouth is open or not, or if your eyes are open or not. And then after that, we'll combine all of that and create these amazing filters, which you can use and create almost any effect on your face. So this tutorial is jam-packed with a lot of stuff. And it also comes with a blog post and a detailed documented Jupyter notebook that you can download from the link in the description below. So let's get started. So to build our application, we'll primarily be working with the MediaPipe library. So in recent tutorials, I've covered a number of MediaPipe applications. This time I'm going to focus on the facial detection and the facial landmark detection model. So facial landmark detection is a really interesting application. Here you have a face and then you track all the different key points on the face. If you have used DLib in the past, then you must know that DLib gives you a standard 68 landmark point model on the face. And then there are some variations of it, some even go beyond 90 points. But the MediaPipe's model is not only super fast, it also gives you 468 individual landmarks on the face, and these landmarks are also in 3D. So it's really cool. Using these landmarks, you can create a number of exciting applications. For example, consider this: controlling an animated 3D character with your facial gestures. How cool is that? Here's another application where you take a face and then morph it into something else. So for that to happen, you need to locate those coordinates and then transform it into something other. So this is another cool application of this. Here's another one. Once you have the facial coordinates on the face, you can actually monitor the facial expressions or the emotions of a person. So this is really exciting and really cool. And these are just some of the applications that you can build. So this is what you get when you use the MediaPipe's facial landmark detection model. So this is a really high resolution video, which is why you're seeing an FPS of about 20. But if you're using your own webcam, the FPS will be a lot higher. So MediaPipe utilizes two detection models to do facial landmark detection. One is a face detector that detects faces, and the other is a landmark detector that detects individual coordinates or landmark key points inside the ROI that facial detector provides. Here's how this looks. So the face detector, you pass in an image and you get a cropped face out of it. And then you take that cropped face and then you pass it to a facial landmark detection model. Then this landmark detection model gives you all the coordinates or all the key points inside that face. And this is what you get. Now, if you're working with videos, here's what happens. You take a frame, you do facial detection on it, you get the bounding box of the face, you pass it to the landmark detection model. The landmark detection model gives you the facial landmarks. Now, this happens on the first frame. But what happens in subsequent frames is that the facial detection model does not run again. Instead, a facial tracking model is called, which takes the previous bounding box coordinates and then tracks it throughout the video. This significantly reduces the latency because the facial tracking model is much faster than the facial detection model. So this way, you have a facial detection and a tracking combination working side by side to increase the speed of the total model. And this is pretty much the same technique that previous MediaPipe applications like the handmark detection or the pose detection have been using. So it's nothing new here. Anyways, let's jump into the code. So this is the Jupyter notebook that we'll be using in today's tutorial. It's a neatly documented and highly organized notebook. It contains a lot of details regarding parameters and what to use and what not to use. So definitely download it from the link in the description below. Anyways, let's get started. So the first thing that we always do is we import the required libraries. Here we're interested in the MediaPipe, the OpenCV library, and some helper libraries like the NumPy and Matplotlib, etc. So we'll start by importing these, and then we'll go on to initialize the facial detection model. So this is sort of a same flow that we have been using in my past tutorials. So if you haven't watched those, I would strongly recommend that you watch them. I have published a post detection tutorial and a landmark detection tutorial. So there are quite a variety of tutorials that I've published on MediaPipe. So make sure to watch those. Since the API is pretty much the same, the flow that we go through would pretty much be the same for facial detection and for facial landmark detection. So anyways, so here's what's happening here. We're initializing the facial detection class, and then we're setting up the facial detection function inside that class. And then I'm also initializing the MediaPipe's drawing utility. This helps to draw out the ROI box or the landmark, like coordinates. You can also do that without this class by using OpenCV, but by using this, you abstract away a lot of code. So it helps, but like it's not necessary. Anyways, once I have initialized this code, I can use the facial detection model. But before that, let me read the image with OpenCV using cv2.imread, and then I'll initialize a matplotlib plot 10 by 10, and then I'll display it with matplotlib. So this is what our test image looks like. So this is the image that I'll be performing facial detection on it. So one of the interesting thing about the facial detection model inside MediaPipe is that not only it gives you a box around the face, but it also gives you some other interesting coordinates. So you get the point of the right eye, the left eye, the nose tip, mouth center, and the ears. So even if you not using a facial landmark detection model, you're just interested in facial detection, you can get these coordinates just by using facial detection model with MediaPipe. But like these are not as accurate as the landmark detection model. So anyways, to use facial detection, what you do is call up the facial detection function which you loaded here, and call face detection dot process. You pass in the image. As you can see, I'm reversing the image channels because OpenCV reads the image in BGR, but MediaPipe accepts an image in RGB format. So either you can reverse the channels by this, or you can call cv2.convertColor function in OpenCV and then convert the image from BGR to RGB and then pass that image. So anyways, once you pass the image in facial detection function, in this line all the processing is going to happen, and then you're gonna get the facial detection results in this object. So now all we need is to iterate over this object, extract the results, and just display it. So that's all. So we first check if there were any detections, because if the image does not contain any face, there won't be any detections. So if there are, then we'll proceed. So what we do now is that we iterate over each detected face, and then we print out the number of that detection. There can be multiple detections. So the facial number, the detection number of that which face we're iterating upon, and then what we do, we're gonna also print out the confidence. So for each detected face, there will be a confidence threshold. So if the face is clearly visible, the confidence might be close to 100%. It might be 99 point something. But if the face is far away or it's occluded, then the confidence might be a bit low. So anyways, here we are printing out the face score, which is the confidence. And then what we're gonna do is extract facial location data. This is where the bounding box of the face is stored. And then from face data, we're gonna call face data dot relative bounding box. Now this is the bounding box inside which the face lies. So we're printing out those coordinates. So then I'm going to iterate over this loop twice, and what here I'm doing is that I'm printing out those key points which I mentioned here. So I'm just printing out dot face key point, the first key point that I'm going to get. So I'm printing out the right eye and the left eye location, because I'm just iterating twice. So if I iterate more times, I'm going to print out all the variables for the that face. So let me just run this and show you what I get. So what I get is that the face number is 1. We only detected the first face. And then what we did next is that we printed out that confidence. So it's 98% sure that it's a face. And then we printed out the facial coordinates. So these are the facial coordinates. And then what I did is that I printed out the XY location of the right eye and the XY location of the left eye. So these are the center points of the right and the left eye. And these this x-min and y-min are, you can consider this as the x1 y1 coordinate. And then this is the width and the height. You can get the x2 y2 coordinate by just adding the width with the x1 coordinate the x-min here and the height with the y-min coordinate to get the y2. And then when you have x1, y1, x2, y2, you can draw a rectangle around the face using OpenCV. But since we just loaded up the drawing utility function, we'll use this drawing utility function to draw and display the image. So this is what I'm going to do next. Another thing that I should mention is that you notice that these coordinates are in the range 0 to 1. So these are not the actual coordinates inside the image. These are normalized coordinates. To get the actual coordinates, what you just need to do is multiply any x level axis coordinate with the width and the y axis level coordinate with the height. So then you get the actual coordinate. For example, take this 0.39 and multiply it with the width of the image, and then take this y coordinate and multiply it with the height of the image, and then you can get the real x1, y1 values of each coordinate in this. So this is a common common thing that happens throughout multiple models. So yeah. So anyways, once that is done, right now I'm not doing any of those multiplications because the drawing utility itself, which we're going to use to draw out the face, is handling internally all these things. If you're going to use OpenCV to draw out, then you need to multiply the width and height with these variables. So anyways, just to draw out, what I'm going to do is load up the image and then I'm going to iterate over each detections. And then for each detection, I'm going to go over each face, and then I'm going to call the drawing utility function called draw detection. I'm gonna passing the image, I'm gonna pass in the face key point spec, and this is the spec that I'm going with. I want this color to be drawn, I want the thickness of the box to be 2, I want the circle radius to be 2. So this is the key points. So circle radius is going to be used when drawing out key points. The thickness is going to be the line thickness of the box, and this is the color that we're going to be using. There are other variables too, but these are the most useful ones. So anyways, this is the plot size, and then I'm using matplotlib to finally display the annotated image. So this is what our final result looks like. So this is face detection plus facial landmark detection, in action. This is you're getting these landmarks for free, so don't be sad if these are not that accurate. So anyways, now we're going to move on to facial landmark detection model with MediaPipe. So for that, it's the same, pretty much the same flow actually. So similarly, you use initialize the facial mesh, and then you set up the facial mesh function for images, and then here's another one for videos. I mean, just for now, just forget this. The only difference between these two initializations is that I'm setting one up for working with images and the other one for working with videos. And the only difference here is that the static image mode is true here and it's false here. I'm also tuning these variables, but it's not necessary. But anyways, for when you're working with videos, you want the static image mode to be true. It's not 100% necessary, but it will give you fast results. And the intuition behind all of this is explained here. And I've also repeatedly explained this intuition in multiple MediaPipe tutorials, because the API workflow is the same throughout different models, and you'll see the same variables repeated again and again. But just for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just gonna describe these things again. So max number of faces, you define how many faces you want to detect. This will help you exclude false positives. So if there's only a single face going to be present in the video, and that's going to be you, if you're just working on your face, then just set it to 1. And then this is the minimum detection confidence. It's between 0 to 1, and normally by default it's set to 50%. And similarly, you have a tracking confidence. Remember, I told you that this is a tracking plus detection sort of a pipeline. So whenever tracking fails, and the tracking will fail when the confidence falls below this threshold. By default, it's 50%. And when that happens, the detection is called again, and the detector model runs, and then it provides the bounding box again, and then the tracking model starts again. To it takes the bounding box and tracks the face throughout the video. So this is what's happened when the static image mode it's set to false. So this is what generally happens. If you set this to false in a video, then in every direction that a detection model will be used, and the speed for that would be slow, but the accuracy might increase somewhat. So anyways, there's that. Once we set up, initialize the facial mesh model, I'm also initializing the drawing class again, and I'm just gonna run this to initialize this. And after that, what I'm gonna do is optionally load up the indexes of the left eye and the right eye. You can load up indexes of any facial part. So there is a left eye, there in the whole map of the facial landmark coordinate, you have left eye, you have right eye, you have the lips, you have the whole facial oval, and I think you have the ear also there. I think I've listed the exact ROIs here. So yeah, we have the eyebrow, left eyebrow, the right eyebrow, and yeah, so lips, and yeah, that's it. So these are the the parts of the face, and you can get the indexes. So these are 468 individual points, and to to find out what what points are on the eyebrow or what points are on the eye, you can get those exact indexes by just doing this. Dot face mesh left eye. So if I replace this left eye with the right eye, I'll get the indexes for the right eye. So these are the index points where these facial parts would be present. So this is useful for a lot of scenarios. So if I just want to draw out these indexes alone, I just want to draw out the eyes, or I just want to draw out the lips. So that's when these will be useful. Or if I just want to extract these, that's also when these indexes will be useful. So anyways, right now I just want to iterate over each face, which I'm going to do right now. I'm going to check if there were any facial landmark detections, and if they were, I'm going to iterate over each face. I'm going to print out the facial detection number, and then what I'm going to do is for the left eye index and the right eye index, which I just loaded up here, I'm going to print those detections. So I'm going to print the left eye indexes, and then I'm going to print the right eye indexes, and I'm just printing out two indexes. So in a typical left eye or right eye, there will be I think 20 to 30 or 35 points. If we're talking about 468 points surrounding our face. So I think maybe I have to recheck again how many coordinates are present actually on the eyes. There's a map for that. I will be linking that in the blog post version of this tutorial. I think there would be a link also present here, so which displays the whole map. But I'll be showing you a video demo right now after I run this, and then you'll also see those landmark coordinates on my face. So you'll have a rough idea how many points are present on which part of the face. So anyways, so after I'm printing out these left eye indexes and the right eye indexes, and I'm only again printing out these two coordinates only. So for the left eye landmark points, I'm just printing out the first two coordinates, so 1, 2, and then again for the right eye landmarks, I'm just printing out 1, 2. So as I said, there are 5 to 6 parts in the face: the eyes, the eyebrows, the lips, and the oval. And this is how this is distributed. And I think there is also the facial mesh contours. So there's that. So yeah, so these are the individual parts, and for each part there are multiple indexes. And I'm just selecting these two parts and printing out two indexes. So that's it. And now I'm just gonna use the drawing utility to draw out the facial mesh in a nice style, and then I'm going to display the results to you. So for this, I'm going to be using mp-solutions.drawing utility class and calling the .draw landmarks function. And this function, it takes a number of things. It takes the image, it takes the landmarks list, which you just you will have the list here, and then it takes the connections. So which part of the face do you want to draw? If you want to draw everything, then you'll probably want to draw the facial mesh in contours. And then there's also this interesting face mesh. I don't know how to pronounce this one, Tesliate, I don't know how to pronounce this one, but this is also interesting, a display of how different parts in the face looks like. And I'm going to display both of these. So I'm going to display the contours, and I'm going to also display this. I'm going to see an interesting visualization of the face in real time. And then these are the same things that you passed when you were working with facial detection. So you take you're passing an image, and you're passing the color spec, and then the connection drawing spec. So this is how the connections would be. How many there are 468 points, but how would all these points connected to each other to create that mesh? So this is where you're drawing that, passing that spec. So here we have the whole code in action. We're loading up the image, and for each facial landmark detection, what we're going to do, iterate over each face, and then we're going to first draw out the whole facial mesh by using this tile. and then I'm also going to repeat that process, but this time I'm going to draw the facial mesh in contour style. So you're going to see both of those on top of each other. So it's going to be an interesting result, and then I'm going to just display it. So this is what this looks like. As you can see, this is the whole the contour and the an interesting style that's visualized it. It's really interesting once you run it on your face in a real-time feed. So that is what I'm going to do. But before that, I'm going to create a function and put everything that we've just learned inside of it. So this is a simple function called detect facial landmarks. You pass in inside the image the facial mesh function and set a variable called display. If display is true, you'll display the results in a form of image below. If display is false, you just return the results. So this is what's happening here. I'm gonna call facial mesh function, pass in the image, call dot process, get the results. I'm gonna iterate over each result, and I'm gonna draw out the results. That's it. I'm gonna draw out the results, and if the display is true, I'm gonna display the results in the form of images by using matplotlib. And if display is false, which will it be when I'm working with videos? So normally when I'm working with videos, I only want the results back. So because I'm going to use cv2.imshow to display when working with OpenCV in a video loop. So that is when I'm just going to return the results. And then, so that's what's happening here. And I'm just going to initialize this function. Now this function is ready. Let's test it out on a couple of images. So I have 3 images here. I'm going to test it out on each of these, and then I'm going to test it out on a video. So this is the original image, and then you get this output, and then we have another image. So this is the image. As you can see, it works on multiple faces. Pretty neat. And there's another image, and so it's working on this one too. And now for the fun part, we work on you use this function and utilize it on a real-time video feed of myself. So for that, I'm gonna use cv2.video capture function OpenCV to set up my camera, and then maybe I should this should be 0. Okay, I'm gonna be using a separate webcam, and then I'm gonna set these camera properties. So this way I'm gonna be using the maximum resolution for this particular camera. So normally I guess I use this when I'm using my mirrorless Sony camera. So that is when I use the maximum resolution. But still, there are multiple properties in OpenCV that you can set regarding your camera, and it helps you to enhance the results. So anyways, after that, I have a named window. This will let me expand the window size, and then what I'm going to do is check if the camera is opened or not. If it is, then I'm going to start reading frame by frame, and then if the frame is not read correctly, I'm going to go back to the loop and start again, and then I'm going to laterally flip the frame because I need a mirrorless view. It's nice. Otherwise, I raise this hand and it's flipped version. So I need a mirrorless view. So after that, I'm going to use the function which I just created above to detect the facial landmarks, and then I'm going to pass in the frame. I'm going to pass in the video, function which I just created. Remember, I created two initializations, one for the images and one for the videos. In this one, the static image mode is false. So I'm going to be using the tracker along with the detector. So, and I'm going to set the display equals to false because I'm working with videos. Now I'm going to get the frame back. This is the annotated frame back. And then I'm going to also, here what I'm doing here is that I'm calculating the FPS. So frames per second. So how long is it taking for the whole detection? So, and then I'm putting the FPS on top of the frame with cv2.putText. And finally, what I'm doing is displaying the results with cv2.imshow. And then what I'm going to do is check if the user is pressing any key button, and if that key button is escape. When you press escape button, the ASCII value would be 27. So you can quit on any individual button, but if you press the escape button, the K value here, it will equate to 27, and then that will break the loop. And once the loop is broken, I'm going to release the video capture, and I'm going to destroy all the windows. So that is our whole function, and let's just run it. All right. So let me just bring this up here, and then we're gonna see the results. So as you can see, it's really good. I mean, the whole facial 3D mesh is on top of my face, and you see the contours, and you see each outline. So these are all 468 coordinates in action. So this is what you get when you use MediaPipe. And as you can see, you can do a lot of things here. You can track individual parts of the face, and then you can analyze different parts, and you can trigger actions based on those parts. So it works fine even if I'm wearing the glasses or not. So yeah, pretty cool and I guess pretty neat. So let me just close this up. Oh yeah. So that was facial landmark detection in action. We have covered facial detection in MediaPipe, and we have also covered facial landmark detection in MediaPipe. Now for the fun part, facial expression recognition. Here what I'm just doing is I'm gonna create a function that will determine if the eyes are open or closed, or if the mouth is open or closed. So by just monitoring these two things, you can create something that tells you if the person is drowsy or not. So maybe a drowsiness detection system that you can attach on a dash cam on a car and trigger alarm based on the fact that the driver is drowsy, or if the driver is yawning, is the driver sleepy or not. So, and people have done that. It's a really common project. So, and then you can do things also like shock expression. If the person opens the eye wide and the mouth is open like that, then this is like a shock expression. So this is a really basic heuristic based expression recognition system that you can build just by monitoring these two things. So anyways, let's create that function. So for that, what I'm going to do is initialize this get size function. Create this get size function, and here what I'm going to do is just determine the size of that facial part. For example, if my lips are closed, then the whole size of the lips is small. But if I open this mouth up wide, then the size increases, right? So because this is the area, this is the whole area. But like if I close my mouth, then this is the whole mouth area. So the size increases when I open my mouth wide. The width and the height of the will increase. So this is what this function actually does. So similarly, if you close your eyes or if you open it wide, the size of the eyes will increase or decrease. So this is just what this function is doing. So get size does just that. It I'm gonna first read up the image width and height, and then I'm gonna iterate over desired indexes. So for eyes, there the indexes would be different. For the mouth, the indexes would be different. I'm gonna just append those indexes. Multiply it with the width and the height, because initially I told you these coordinates are in 0 to 1, but we need it to be in the the actual range. And then after that, I'm gonna get a bounding rect on these indexes, and then of that bounding rect, I'm gonna return the landmarks. So this bounding rect function in OpenCV will give me the width and the height, and this rect function will be big. This rectangular box will be big if the area is expanded. And if the area is shrinked up, like if my eyes are closed, if mouth is closed, then that if you create a bounding box with OpenCV on here, then that bounding box will be small. But if I open my mouth and then draw a bounding box, then that box would be a lot bigger. So this is what's happening here. I'm creating a list, converting the list into a NumPy array, and then drawing a rectangular box around that array, getting the width and the height of that box, returning that width and the height, and returning the landmarks. So this is a really simple function. And now I'm going to create another function called isOpen. And then isOpen function is going to accept, call this getSize function internally, and then I'm going to set a threshold. So if the size of the mouth is bigger than a certain threshold, then say the mouth is open. And if the size is not, then say the mouth is closed. Similarly, if the size of the eyes is open, is larger than a certain threshold, then say the eyes are open, or otherwise say the eyes are closed. So that is just what this function does. It just checks that the where is it? Yeah, it just checks that the facial part of that facial part is greater than a certain threshold. Then set the status of that particular part as open, otherwise set it as closed. So that is all it's happening here. The rest of the things are just makeup. For example, I'm gonna call the getSize function to get the height or the size of that facial part, and I'm also dividing it with the height or width of the whole facial box, because otherwise if I don't do that, I'm gonna be if I set a threshold at this location when I'm far away, or if I'm further into the camera, then that threshold would change. But if I normalize that by dividing it with the whole facial box, then that would be a normalized threshold that would work across all sizes. So that is what's I'm doing here. And then also what I'm doing is that I'm gonna print out the eye location, eye status and the face status in parts of the image. So if there are multiple eyes and face present, then I need to put text here, and then I'm gonna put another text below that. So that is what I'm just doing with this lock thing, and this is the location of where I'm gonna put the text for the face. So that is all that's happening here. So similarly, I'm just specifying the color. So nothing core serious is happening other than these conditions which I'm checking. So that is the main part of the code. The rest is just unnecessary makeup, and that is what's happening here. And finally, display set to true. I'm going to display the results. Otherwise, I'm going to return the results when I'm working with videos. So this is going to be, and this function is going to be really important when we're working with when we're creating those snapshot filters. So this function will be really important. So anyways, let's run this, and when I run this, the function is initialized and all set to go. And I'm going to now check this exact function on 3 images, and let's see the results. And I'm going to plot the results side by side. So original image plus the annotated image. I'm sorry, I'm not plotting side by side, but I'm plotting the results on top of it. So this is the annotated image in action. So face 1, left eye is closed. Face 1, right eye is closed. So he's telling me that both the left eye and the right eye of the first face that is detected on this image are closed. And for the face mouth, it's telling me the mouth is open. So as you can see, it's pretty accurate. And then let's check another image. So in this image, there are 2 people present, and for each person, I'm gonna get their own status. So face 1, left eye open, face 1, right eye open. Similarly, for the other face, the left and right eye are open, and face 1 is mouth is open, face 2 mouth is closed. So this is accurate because this girl's mouth is open and this girl's mouth is not. So this is indicated clearly here. Pretty accurate. And finally, for the last one, we have both eyes open and we have the mouth open, and that is what's happening here. All right. So that was facial expression detection. I wouldn't call it a facial expression accurate action, complete facial expression detection, but a really simple version of it. So now for the finale, which is the snapshot filter, function, and one of the best part about this is that now that we have done all of the things above, it's going to be really simple to put everything together and just create amazing, interesting filters out of the things that we've just learned. All right, so let's start. So this is what you're going to get. You're going to pass in this filter, and I'm going to apply some filter images and place on top of the face if certain conditions are met, and then you're going to see these results. So this is the whole, the pipeline of placing a filter on top of an image in action. So this is what happens here. I take an image and I take a filter image. So this is a filter image which is which has a transparent background stored in when you download the code, you're going to get this filter image. So you can also work with other filter images. So we take a filter image, we take the image, and then I extract a certain ROI from the face. So if I want to replace the eye, I'll extract the ROI box of the eye. So remember, I created a bounding rect function. So with that rect function, you can get the exact, crop. You can get this ROI. And then what I'm going to do next is that I'm going to create a mask from this filter by calling a threshold function, and I'm going to get this mask. And then I'm going to use this mask along with this ROI to get this resultant image. And then when I get this resultant image, which has a background of the actual image and the foreground, which is completely black, and this is where I'm going to place the filter image. So now I'm going to use this resultant image and place the filter, initial filter image on top here. So I'm going to merge these 2 images to get this final image. And now what is just going to happen, and I'm going to take the original image back and replace that part with this part. So I'm going to replace the original ROI of the eyes, and then I'm going to replace it with this final image that I got, and I'm going to get with this final annotated image. So this is the whole pipeline. So this is the same flow for the eyes, and this is the same flow for the face filter. And there's just a little change when it comes to face, because instead of working with an image, I'm gonna place a animated video on the facial part, and it's the whole thing is same. The same. I'm gonna use the same function to make it work on the face too. But the only difference here would be, instead of sending an image of a static image, I'm gonna send a video feed. So, and inside a video feed, we already know a video itself is made of multiple images. So the same thing is happening for the facial animation too. So this is the whole workflow, and the whole workflow is encoded in this single function called define overlay. So this is the function which takes an image, which takes a filter image, and also takes other things like landmarks, facial part, indexes. So facial part is the facial part which you want to overlay. Right now, when I want to replace the eyes with this box with this eyeball, the facial part is going to be the eyes, and the indexes is going to be the indexes for that particular part. So remember, initially when I showed you that you can get indexes of any facial part. So for this particular scenario, when I'm working with eyes, the indexes is going to be the indexes of the eyes. Similarly, if you want to replace the face, then at that time the indexes would be of the facial lips indexes. So the facial, mouth indexes. And then I'm going to set the display variable here. Again, if I'm working with images, I'm going to set display to true. Otherwise, I'm going to set it to false. So anyways, this is a simple function. What it does is it loads up the filter image. It resizes the image. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna increase the filter size as 2.5 times as that of the original part. So and the reason I'm doing this is because I want the eyeballs to be bulged when it's replaced, so it looks good. Otherwise it's really stringed up. You can increase the size of the filter by just doing 3.5 or 3 or whatever variable you want. I'm just hard coding this, but you can also add it as a hyperparameter which you can control. So you can do a lot of cool things with this. You can, in fact, when I was working with this, I had a lot of ideas, but I need to make it as simple as possible, and still ended up with a lot of code. So there's that. So anyways, once you had a filter, you just resize it, and you get the resized filter image, and then you take that resized filter image, and then what you do is extract the filter's height and width, and then you create a mask out of it. So remember, I told you that you get this filter image, and then you have to threshold it, and you will get this mask. So this is what I'm doing here. I'm thresholding it to get this binary black and white mask, and then I'm taking this binary mask. And then what I'm going to do is, so here's what's happening here. I'm going to combine the filter mask with this ROI and get this resultant image. So this is what's going to happen here. And then after that resultant image, I get with the AND function, I'm going to add it to get this image. So I'm going to add this resultant image with this filter image and get this final image. I think I should have changed the label when I was creating this graph. So anyways, I get this image. So this sort of image, which is the complete image, all I need to do is replace the original part with this part. So that's what's just remaining here. So and that is exactly what I'm going to do in here. So once I have created the final box ROI, which contains the eyeball, I'm just gonna take the original image, and then I'm gonna replace that particular part. So this is the part where the eye is present with the resultant image. So this is the resultant image which I just created by merging the original part of the eye with the eyeball. So this is what just happened here. And the other things optionally I'm doing here is that I'm getting the location of this, where the mouth is present, or the location where the eye is present. So this is something that we need. And then I'm gonna get the center of the facial part. So yeah, so but what I've just explained is the core functionality that's happening in this function. So that is all that's happening here. And now I'm gonna initialize this function. Now that function is initialized, everything is all set to go. I'm just gonna first explain this final script, and then I'm gonna show you the final results. And the function is pretty much, like this script is pretty much the same as the previous script, which we like ran the facial landmark detection model on our feed. So we're just, like similarly, we're initializing the camera, we're setting up the named window. I'm loading up the left eye, the right eye, like filter images, and also loading up this facial animation. So the only difference here is that instead of loading an image, I'm loading up a video feed. So that's it. So what's the other thing that was going to happen is that when I'm like iterating over the camera feed and reading frame by frame, this is something that's new here. So because I'm working with a video, I'm going to read a video frame for that animation every time the loop runs. So smoke frame is going to be updated every time the loop runs. But there's a problem with this. What if the animation is small? Because the animation will consist of a few frames, like 40 to 50 frames. I don't know how many frames are in this particular animation. But like when we read the last animation, the video would end. When the video ends, we need to know, because we need to start the video again. So this is what's happening here. I'm going to check every time where the frame counter is at. So we're going to append the frame counter every time we read a frame. And when the frame counter has reached at the end of the video, we're gonna reset the video from frame 0, and then I'm gonna reset the counter, and we're gonna start reading again. So this way, the facial animation will be will start again when the animation ends. So you get a continuous animation. So all you need to do is treat this as a single image, and you're fine. I mean, anything that's new here is this, and itself is pretty simple. So now you're all set, and I think it's pretty much the same from here on. So we're flipping the frame laterally. I'm calling the detect landmarks function. It's giving me the facial mesh results, and then I'm calling the isOpen function to determine if the mouth is open or not. Similarly, I'm gonna determine if the left eye is open or not, the right eye is open or not, and I'm gonna grab all these three statuses, and if the left eye is open, I'm going to call the overlay function for the left eye. If the right eye is open, I'm going to call the function for the right eye, and if the mouth is open, I'm going to call this overlay function for the mouth. And all I'm passing here is I'm telling it to use the mouth facial part, and I'm passing the indexes for the mouth part. So that is all that's happening here. What I get is that we're primarily using just three functions. We're using three functions. That is why the code is so small here. The facial landmarks detect facial landmarks functions detect the landmarks. The isOpen functions determine if the mouth or eyes are open or not. And then finally, we have an overlay function which overlays the filter on top of the eyes or the face, depending upon if the eyes or face is open or not. So that is what's just happening here. Finally, we're gonna run this function. But before I do that, here's a small request. Do subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. It helps me out. And also join Bleed AI newsletter, which you can by downloading the code for this video and just signing up. So that is just a small request. And right now I'm gonna show you the final demo for this tutorial. So this is the final demo in action. And if you can see here, if I close this eyes and and if I do it a little bit smaller, so yeah, and if I open my mouth here, the flame is small. If I increase my mouth size, then the flame becomes bigger. Then this is because I'm calculating the size around my facial area, and then from that size I'm resizing the filter, and this is the reason. Then when my mouth is wider, the flame is wider, and you can actually make this a lot better. This is just something I whipped up very quickly, and you can fine tune it and get this filter to work more accurately. And if you see, there's some flickering going on in my eyes here, and the reason for that is the threshold I've set is I've set it to 100, and I didn't experiment with it with different cameras. So right now I'm using my Sony camera, and I'm running this for the first time with this particular camera. So once you don't hard code and you experiment this with different cameras, and you set the values that works the best according to you, you're going to get great results. So here's the full thing in action. If I even move far away or I move closer, the filter is resized accordingly. So yeah. So it's simple here, but like as I said, we can go beyond this and create even better filters. So we can use 3D libraries in Python to render 3D objects based on how the face is oriented, how the facial parts are moving. But for best, I mean, if you want to work with 3D filters, I would probably recommend go with Unity. But with Python, you can create very, very interesting 2D filters, but for best 3D results, because there are pre-built libraries that already gives you great results when working with 3D. But Python is best for prototyping and coming up with stuff and automating and some simplistic animations like the one here. So I'll end it on this note. And that is all right. So for this time. So let me just close this up. Now, before I end this video, let me tell you something really interesting. Pretty soon, I'm going to launch a really interesting computer vision course with some cutting edge applications and some really interesting, cool, stuff. So make sure to join that course by downloading from here or from the link in the YouTube description. And like I said, it's a really, really interesting course, and it's going to be, on a huge sale when it launches in a few months. And make sure to join that course. So anyways, if you enjoyed this tutorial, give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments how you find it and if you're interested in some particular tutorials or not. So that is all for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.